This is the Page Publishing Book Club. How you doing? I'm Alice Stockton Rossini. Abigail Martinez is proof you can write a book and get it published no matter how old you are. She's 12 years old, and you know what? Boredom in the school cafeteria worked out for her because that's where she started writing. And now she's the published author of the story Inside the Heart.
I wrote about how this girl, Casey Strum, had these superpowers, and she could do whatever she wanted with one bracelet. Pretty much what she has to do is try and save the universe from this other family who has superpowers named the Friedmans. And so the Strums are a powerful family, and there's also another powerful family called the Benningtons. Casey Strum is the only female Strum in her family. The rest of the females got married in. So Casey Strum had to go see the Benningtons, and once they got together, they decided how were they going to try and defeat the Friedmans.
What's the conflict in the book?
The Benningtons' uncle is David. David wants to steal Casey's powers because somehow if you're able to steal the last family member's blood, you could somehow gain their power.
Okay.
And so he wanted that power because he was the one family member in the Friedman's family that did not have a power.
Okay.
So he's kind of like a secret Friedman spy. And he teams up with this girl named Amanda. And Amanda also wants these powers. And they both decide to go after Casey and the Bennington siblings to try and take their powers. And we see a cool fight in between them later on.
All right. Now, in your blurb, it says that Casey found out something no 14-year-old should ever have to find out.
So pretty much what she found out was a lot of things. At first, she found out that the universe is pretty much on her shoulders. And that's gotta suck because now you have to save everyone. And in this book, there are aliens involved. So now she has to save other species as well.
So, where did these ideas come from? Just daydreaming in the cafeteria? Or do you read a lot of science fiction or what?
I guess they do come from science fiction. I read a lot of Harry Potter books and a lot of science fiction, but sometimes a lot of them do come from daydreaming, just random things.
So you started writing this all down, and were you able to write the whole book without any help, or did you go to a teacher and say, will you help me, or how did this happen?
I wrote the first few pages on my own, and then I just continued writing. It was all by myself, no help whatsoever. Later on, I went to my parents and have them read it, see what they thought, and my dad said we should totally publish the book.
So nobody in school knows you wrote this book? Your teachers don't know?
No, not at the time. They didn't know.
Do they know now?
A few of them do. I haven't really said it to a lot of them because I feel like they're going to be at my back saying, oh, you need to do more work, more better. You did the book. You should do better.
Oh.
They're going to pile more work on me.
I would hope they'd be so proud of you.
Hopefully.
Who's going to buy your book? Are you telling your friends? Are you reading it to them?
No, they're supposed to buy it. Duh.
Yeah, I know. But when I said reading, I'm not suggesting you read the whole book, but you read a part of the book that gets them interested. That's what I meant, not read the whole book. Because then, duh, why would they buy it? Any creative ideas on how to promote this book?
Yeah, we're thinking of maybe going to a few shops and asking if we could put some book signings there.
Okay, that would be good. And maybe you can do it outside. Are you still wearing masks there?
Yeah, I think so. But I guess they're going to have to ask because of the how we're supposed to be put in small groupings only.
So when that book came in the mail, how did it feel?
I think the best part for me was when they said that the book was good and that they would be able to publish it because it would be my first published book. It was so exciting for me to finally be a published author, even at such a young age. They mailed the original 10 copies to me, and I opened it in the car, and I was so excited for it. So when I opened it and saw the book, I was like, oh my goodness, I finally have my own book that is mine, my creation.
And no doubt the first of many to come, Abigail. Good job. Hayaratu Kavore is a leasing consultant in the D.C. area, and she migrated safely to the U.S. from West Africa, but others haven't been so lucky. And she has a warning for them in her book entitled Escaped.
So basically, it's about three young girls from Burkina Faso, and their dream is to come to the United States, basically travel abroad for a better life. And each one of them would choose a different path in order to make that dream come true. And the book basically goes over each path they have chosen and the outcome.
What are they escaping from?
Poverty.
Horrible poverty, right?
Yes. One of them, the main character, she's a brilliant student, but she comes from a very poor family. And staying there, she's the eldest, and staying there will not allow her to develop her full potential. Even though she's very smart, she doesn't have the money or the needs to go to school there. So the other two are basically the same thing, but school is not the path that they've chosen. So one of them just wanna come about and work so she can take care of her families. So the other two characters basically wants to become business owners, and one of them will succeed in opening her own business, and one of them she will die in the process of trying to reach there. Basically, the truth behind these stories is how young African people are ready to do anything to come in the United States, France, England, even if it means putting their life in danger. And basically, my book, what I wanted to do is to share those stories with everybody so they can know that even though it's hard back home, it's better to stay there and fight your battles rather than do something that will make your life a living hell. For instance, the one that died, she has chosen to go illegally, and she died in the process. And a lot of this happens to a lot of immigrants that try to immigrate illegally.
Are you saying that they shouldn't try to immigrate illegally?
They shouldn't try to immigrate illegally. The first one was able to come here because of her studies, and then the second one was able to come here because she met someone online, got married, and was able to come here. You cannot blame them, honestly, but at the same time, is it worth dying? They pay people and they try to come here on literally on boats, and sometimes the boat sinks and they die. And some women that basically they try to do that, they get raped. It's a nightmare. So I feel like even though you are in the private poverty over there, you still have a family, you still get to see your family. It is not worth you dying and them not even knowing what happened to you, because when they die, nobody calls the families to tell them they die. They just die in the middle of the ocean and nobody knows about it. Nobody cares. I mean, it's like the families are back home saying, hoping that maybe she made it and waiting for that one call to come through for them, which never happens. They never get a closure. Let's say, like for the main character, right? Let's say you are a student. It's easier because you can apply for school, you can get admitted and go. But even that, you need a lot of money to prove that you can afford school here. And sometimes I know they offer like internship to brilliant students, and that can also be a path for you if you are one of the chosen, but not everybody can get that. You really have to outsmart everybody. If everybody come here or Canada or you or France, who is going to stay there to build the country and create new opportunities for the younger generation. Who? So if all of us give up the fight and we come here and we sit here, we live here, who's gonna make the change?
Do you believe change is possible there?
Yes, it is.
And the government won't try to hold you down? And
Of course they will, but it's possible.
how did you end up here?
Basically, my parents were diplomats. They went back after the contract. They went back. I stayed back for school. I got married here, and I have my kids here. So,
So you're here.
hmm
You don't just create art or even look at it. It's an experience on multiple levels. Kilola Maisha Shinoe has been involved in arts education and lecturing for years, which led her to explore this fascinating process in her book, Symbol Conscious and Unconscious Language, a study beyond art, art therapy, and art in psychotherapy.
Well, I'm an artist, and I became so interested in looking at and getting to the bottom of my experience of the arts in terms of utilizing the art elements and knowing that in the process of creating that a lot of things are happening on the subconscious level, a lot of conscious things, but a lot of subconscious things, and also having an interesting experience when it comes to the sensation of relaxation and meditation in the artistic process. So those are the kind of things that inspired me to study what I do as an artist. But also, I just was really interested in researching things to do with the mind, the consciousness, art, and symbols, and how that, relates to communication and language, because I started realizing that, what I'm doing as an artist in whatever form I'm creating, it could be dance, poetry, or visual arts, whatever, that I'm actually communicating information. I'm sending messages, which we know art is good for doing regarding symbols, but, how is all of this happening? So I became very interested in investigating the whole idea.
That's why the name of your book is Symbol Conscious, Unconscious Language. No, it makes so much sense.
Yeah, it's just really fascinating. And I just felt like, gee, I'm having such a good time with this, and it's so important and intriguing. I just want to share with the public about the things to do with art and creativity. And so in order to do proper sharing, I had to, do research. I really wanted to inspire, because my book relates to other subject areas. I wanted to inspire people in these other fields, sciences, neuroscience, or philosophy, or psychology, and also like psychiatry. It's all related, art therapy and art psychotherapy, to read the book and gain, some new insights on, some revelations and creative, unique concepts that I derived from my studies, and have them look into this and do further research and share that by, writing books or doing lectures, whatever. So it's a very exciting process.
It sounds like you should take this on a lecture series to like-minded artists and people who teach art. And, I immediately think of art therapy, people who do that kind of a thing. I mean, there's so many levels here. How do you see yourself getting the word out about this book?
It's like I have to do one step at a time. So I publish the book, and then I have to promote the book and use social media. I'm at the beginning stages of marketing in that way for myself. But again, I'm really excited about, learning what I have to learn in order to market the book.
Yeah, well, learning that is like learning another language. And there's so much more to learn right here on the Page Publishing Book Club, right after this.
Have you written a book and want to get it published? Then now's the time to call Page Publishing at 800-204-6099 and do it immediately. You see, they're looking for authors of all types of books. And unlike most publishers, Page Publishing will take the time to review most of the books submitted to them. And they'll even give you their feedback. And if they like what they read, Page Publishing will get your book into bookstores and for sale online at Amazon, the Apple iTunes Store, and other outlets. They'll handle everything: copyright protection, printing, cover art, publicity, and editing. So if you've written a novel, a children's book, a cookbook, inspirational work, a book of poetry, or biography, and want to get it published, then you need to call Page Publishing and do it immediately. Call 800-204-6099 now for your free author submission kit. Your road to fame and fortune could very well start with this simple phone call. For your free author submission kit, call Page Publishing at 800-204-6099.
We are back on the Page Publishing Book Club. So are you. Thanks for being here. Not many people can say they loved every moment they spent on the job, but Mike Murphy can. He was a professional bartender and stagehand. People always told him, you should write a book. And now he's got 4 decades of adventures in 4 different states to share in Bartender Behind Bars. Really got around, didn't you?
Well, yeah, because once I learned how to bartend, I went from a small town in what I call nowhere, New York, to Rochester, New York, and went to college for restaurant management, food service administration, and worked the hottest clubs there, bartending in a deadhead bar called the Mason Jar, the infamous Mason Jar. And then from there, I went to Red Creek, which is a famous jazz and blues club, where I worked with some of the big stars of the day.
So the name of your book is Bartender Behind Bars. What does that mean?
I actually did end up behind bars a couple of times, but it was only for misdemeanors. It was just kind of the lifestyle I was living at the time. It starts out in my hometown of Newark, New York, working at a party house called Zappy, Xeon 88, where I worked for 2 years until I went to college in Rochester, and then I worked at the Mason Jar, and we did a lot of famous bands there, the Guess Who, George Thorogood, Dr. Dirty out of Rochester, Marshall Tucker, and then the Jazz and Blues Club in Rochester. I got to work with Duke Robard, Jeff Tyzett, Chuck Mangione. There was a Mexican restaurant, and the guy that owns it is now the promoter for the Lilac Festival in Rochester. A good friend of mine that, to my acknowledgement, is Jeff Springer. And from there, I moved to the sailing capital of the world, Newport, Rhode Island. My father was from East Providence, Rhode Island, and knew it was time to, upgrade my resume, and I moved there. A friend of mine was a commercial fisherman, and he hooked me up with a place to stay, and drove my little Triumph Spitfire across the bridge, and I go, this was a good decision, and ended up staying there for 15 years. I'm working in the hottest clubs. I started at the Boathouse, who I just sent a book to, Joe Vaz. It's president of the America's Cup Club that took us to Hawaii and to Australia for the race of the century, which was Dennis Collins versus John Bertram of Australia. And Dennis Collins, who I met, he was also mentioned in the book, he lost the cup in 83 and then re-won it in 87. And now it'll be the 30-year anniversary as of this year. And I will be heading back to Newport in another month and trying to locate some people that I've been out of contact with. And I do keep in contact with my good friend Billy Collins that still owns the bar and nightclub that I used to work at called Astor's Fine Dining with a piano bar, and now it's called The Port. So,
did you ever get married with that kind of lifestyle?
The gentleman that taught me how to bartend, I went to high school with my mother, and we were doing a private party in the back room at Sappy, as it's in the book. And he goes, Murph, I'm going to give you the best advice I ever gave a bartender. I go, what's that, Freddie? We call him Ringo. What's that, Ringo? He goes, a good bartender never gets married. I just said, I go, don't get married. So I kind of took it to late in I had no intention of not getting married, but it never really worked. And kind of girls I kind of liked were party girls. And once I got to Newport, I found out that you're only as good as that tip jar. Once that tip jar ran out, the girls take off and head out to the islands with some guy with a lot of money, and they usually get dumped somewhere on the islands.
Wow, what a life. So you're trying to find the people that you used to hang out with and tell them about your book?
Well, I'm in a wheelchair. I've been disabled for 10 years. So that's why it took me 10 years to write the book, actually. Going to the library every day on good weather and writing like a page a day. And there was no hurry. actually just sent a letter to Jenna Bush. She does the Today Show. I'm sure you know of her. I've actually, unfortunately, I've had bad health issues, and I've died 3 times and had 4 strokes and a heart attack. So if that doesn't catch her attention, I don't know what to do to get on her show. But
I don't know. Calling Jenna Bush. All right, Mike, thank you. Hang in there. Joanne Crooks has had a few poems and a short story published, but she was compelled to clear up some misconceptions about the Unification Church and the Reverend Sun Myung Moon. So, Confessions of a Unificationist is her first published book.
Yeah, I feel like I think that most people have no idea what the Unification Church believes or what we do. So I thought I would try to give a basic introduction to divine principle and our teachings.
Did something happen that made you realize, people have no idea what we're about?
Well, years of persecution, that'll do that to you.
That might. So what's the biggest misconception you're trying to clear up?
Well, people lump all religions that are not mainstream, they lump them in together, and they're probably as different as night and day. So, when they lump you in with David Koresh and people that try to get everybody to commit suicide, it's really painful. It's like, no, we don't teach that.
So what is it that you do teach?
Basically, we teach that God is our creator. God is our, not just, a creator and he went away, that God is our parent and that he loves us and he's involved in each of our lives. But because of the fall of man, we became cut off spiritually. And over time, God working through religions has revived spiritual ability. He had to start with, primary school, like the 10 Commandments, do this, don't do that, do this, don't do that. And then when a child grows up, you don't have to tell a kid, look both ways when you cross the street, because they already know why you don't, step out in the curb. So religions have been able to have a deep relationship with God as time has gone on. So now that man is so developed externally, we look at science is the external development, but religion needs to catch up. Religion is kind of, some of it's more still in the primary, where God is, ready to relate to us more on a personal level.
Well, you say, that you try to give us a basic understanding of the divine principle. They're the teachings of Reverend Moon.
Yes.
What does that mean?
Well, I just give a primer, just a few basic points from the principle, and it's like a 389-page book, so it's kind of hard to summarize it in a chapter. But I tried to give, answer some of the basic questions that people have asked all along. What is our, why we here? What is our spiritual body? How do we grow? What happens when we die? The life of Jesus, and things like that divine principle clarifies.
And I think people question Reverend Moon, right? Would you say that's true?
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
And how did he become the leader of the church?
Well, when he was 16 years old and he was praying on a Korean mountainside, the story is that Jesus came to him and asked him if he would continue the mission that he started on earth. And at first he said no. He said no, and then finally, okay. So ever since then, he's been trying to do whatever God asked him to do, and it's expanded from the individual, the family, to the tribe, to the nation, to the worldwide level. And the main, one of the main things he does is the blessing ceremony. You probably know about our group weddings. So
you're famous for that.
Yeah, so there's millions of people who have been blessed now, and we're like in the 3rd generation of people being blessed. And so they're trying to raise family centered on God and bring peace in the world by, if you marry your enemy, then when the parents look at the children, it's like, they might have hated this culture, these people, but then when you look in the face of your grandchild, that kind of melts away. So.
Sure does, Joanne. Well, thank you for this. Finally, R.M. Burgess writes research articles for a living, but for fun, he writes books based on feminine themes. Flawed Perfection was his first book for Page, and now he's published Roxy Reed.
I thought the quintessential feminine theme is motherhood. The title character is a mother, and one of the formative experiences is her very toxic relationship with her own mother. It's a very fast-paced book, written on a day-to-day basis on a very short time scale between Thanksgiving and New Year's Day. And the whole thing that it tries to do is to explore a number of contradictions. The moral of the story being that your past always catches up with you. And so even though you may go and reinvent yourself in a different place, a different milieu, for better or for worse, you are what you are. And your essential self doesn't change.
So she grew up with a drug-addicted mother.
Correct. In a very challenging environment. Her mother was, a very intelligent woman, but obviously an addict, which of course led to her downfall. So she's inherited a great deal of intelligence. And so she finds a mentor who gets her into the world of banking. And she does become a successful banker. And thinks that she has completely escaped from London to New York onto Wall Street. But a chance meeting leads her back to connections from the past, which is really the grist of this book. And in the course of this, there are love interests. I mean, there is a love triangle. She has a man from her past who is pursuing her, and then a man from her present, and essentially the juggling of this triangle, along with the juggling of her past and the present, gives a fair deal of dramatic tension.
Well, the fact that she was pregnant and she witnessed her child's father's murder, she carries that with her, right? Her whole life.
Yes, her whole life. She's a very scarred individual.
Yeah.
An imperfect individual. I think she's a very interesting character because she's not just in sugar and spice, everything nice. She's saccharine rom-com heroines. She's got a hard edge to her, but I think I'm hoping the readers will find that there's good in her.
Are you developing a following with your books?
I mean, I have a kind of a hardcore fans, unfortunately not big enough as I'd like it to be. I mean, there is some social media. This book is just coming on online. So I'm hoping that this will be a fresh start. And ultimately, if readers read this and like it, that they will be impelled to read the companion book. And I'm working right now on a third book about with the same character, Roxy Reed. So I'm hoping that when that comes out, that will sort of bleed onto that as well.
All right, R.M. Burgess, thank you so much. And that's it for this edition of the Page Publishing Book Club. Thanks to our authors who joined us and to those of you who actually stay up late on Saturdays to tune in. Thanks for being here. You can hear all of our shows available for podcast on 710WOR.com. I'm Alice Stockton Rossini. I'll catch you next time.